Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters, as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we're talking a lot about the home teams, Tulane Green Wave, LSU Tigers, the New Orleans Saints, and the rest of the teams around the state, all the college teams, as we get real football kicked off on the collegiate level this weekend, waiting on the Saints to start off against Tampa Bay next weekend. Got a great panel for you tonight. Rene Nadeau of CrestCitySports.com and so much more, and the debut of my good friend, the voice of the Tulane Green Wave, Todd Graffagnini. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. As always, thanks for coming down.
Thank you.
We start off with you, my friend Rene, and Rene, tell them all the folks about everything you got going.
This time of year, college football analyst and on a few networks, ESPN, and also write for CrescentCitySports.com and CBS Radio for Saints games, some Pelicans bowl games. So anything CBS Radio wants to cover down here, I'm the correspondent for that. And as you both know, football season is starting, but it never really started. It never stopped. It's just this is the next phase.
Yeah,
this is
the
real phase where you can see
the real phase.
Yeah.
And if you're not checking out CrestCitySports.com, again, you're way behind because Rene and the rest of the guys over there do a fantastic job covering local sports, from high school to college to pros. Fantastic. I got them down every day. I'm checking them out. You should as well. The debut of my good friend Todd Graffagnini. Todd, so glad to have you come down. Again, you're always so busy with calling basketball, football, baseball. It's hard to get you down here on the getting ready to get started against Wake Forest tonight. Talk a little bit about everything you got going on over Tulane University.
Well, that's pretty much it, Eric. I'm starting my 12th year as the full-time play-by-play announcer, doing all three sports. I've been at Tulane since 1992, calling baseball, and was able, with my mentor, the former voice of the Wave, Ken Berthelot, just giving me the opportunity and just working my way up through the business and just doing other things. Was able to be the studio host for the Hornets and just expanded things that way. But Tulane is it, and starting tonight, as the Wave takes on Wake Forest, I'll be with Tulane doing things till June, hopefully, in baseball season. So it's starting to be a very busy time for me now. Now,
of course, the Wave can be heard on a familiar radio station, and of course, the Coaches Show. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we're on Sports 1280 in New Orleans, 101.1 FM HD2. So every Tulane football game, men's basketball game can be heard there. TuneIn app. iHeartRadio app, so there's no excuse not to listen.
That's right. Before we get started and talk about this year's edition of Tulane, there was an undefeated team not too long ago, and we're celebrating that anniversary. Talk a bit about it.
Yeah, 20 years. It's hard to believe. That 12-0 team, Tommy Bowden, Rich Rodriguez, Sean King and company. And, we've had, Eric, the pleasure of, again, I've talked about Ken Berthelot. We have been able to go back in the old film room and watch some of those games again, and Ken and I have been able to talk about those games, and our athletic department, our video department has put those videos out. It's really been a popular thing, and Kenny and I are watching these games again for the first time really in 20 years. I mean, back when you used to watch them some of the time, but a lot of those games are on VHS, and who has VHS anymore? So just to watch the Cincinnati game again, to open that 98 season and to relive the Southern Miss game in the Dome and beat Louisville the last second, winning that game where the defense makes the play. It's just, it brings chills, and it brought you back to 98 and just a year that none of us who were ever associated with Tulane would ever forget. It's awesome stuff.
Now, you were the sideline reporter there.
I was.
Your fondest memory of that season?
Oh, goodness. Wow. I can honestly say this. I've watched a lot of football in my time, but going up to West Point, 9-0, and playing Army in daytime turning into twilight, and that game being so back and forth, and ultimately winning it 49-35, that was one of the greatest college football games I've ever seen in person. And then you're 10-0 at that, or 9-0 going in and about to win a conference championship the next week. That was an incredible memory. Obviously winning the Liberty Bowl to wrap it up, going 12-0, and then spending New Year's Eve night on Beale Street with every Tulane fan that could be in the country.
Yes.
That was one of the great memories I'll ever have. And again, it's just I was very fortunate to be able to get a ring. Mm-hmm. I have a 12-0 ring, and it's a memento that I share. I take very seriously.
Let's hope you get a chance to get another one this season.
That would be nice.
No doubt. What do you remember about 20 years ago?
And the thing is, there was a lot of talent on that team, but that was the perfect storm. I mean, that was a great team of character, guys who teammates on that team. And Sean King was a good quarterback, went to the NFL, but he had guys that just played well together. It wasn't an I kind of team, it was a we kind of team. And, there was people I would pick up. If somebody had a bad game or an off week, it was someone who always picked up and filled a spot in offense and defense. And you just had a group of guys that really, I think, loved playing together. Yeah. And enjoyed it, and it showed on the field.
And that offense was the precursor of the offenses we see now.
Oh, yeah, Rich Rodriguez, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, and we talked about this in our film sessions, Rene and Eric. When you're watching these games from 1998, no one had ever seen an offense like this. And when you're watching it like we're watching it now in 2018, you're realizing everyone in the world's running the exact same offense now. It is so far ahead of its time, and you didn't even realize it. And that's why, for the most part, nobody could stop it. No one had an idea. And like you said, it was the perfect storm. You had the perfect quarterback running that offense with the talent around him. It was a devastating combo, and the 12-0 record
really great memories, no doubt about it. Let's talk about this year's edition of the Tulane Green Wave. It starts with the quarterback, right, Todd? Jonathan Banks.
Yes, and I was thinking about this on the ride over here. When Willie Fritz began his Tulane career 2 years ago against the same Wake Forest team, he went into it with the only school in the country that started a quarterback, or every quarterback on the roster, I would say, that had not taken a Division I snap. And that's not a very nice way to start a football season. You fast forward 2 years, and now Jonathan Banks has established himself. And even last year, Banks was the starter coming out of fall camp, but you didn't really know what he could do as far as how he would fit the system. He had the talent, he had the athletic ability, but he really hadn't run an offense like he's running now going into last year. That's all out the window. We saw last November what Jonathan Banks could do when he was healthy. They held a lot of the playbook back last year because he was banged up from the second game of the season. And it took a lot for offensive coordinator Doug Roos to really trust him, because, not saying he couldn't run the offense, he just wasn't healthy enough to run the offense that they want him to run. You're going to take some hits when you're playing quarterback at Tulane because you're going to run the football a little bit. Yeah. But as November started to add up and those games kept going, you saw the throwing ability of Jonathan Banks. And when he was able to throw the ball effectively, that opens things up for the running game. And that's when we saw the Tulane offense at his best. Now you're going into the season, the playbook is there. He can do anything that he wants to. Now he's got more skill guys to either throw the ball to or hand the ball off to. So it's a pretty good situation at quarterback, not going for Micah, that he stays healthy.
Rene, you cover the pros and college as well as prep. Talk about Jonathan Banks. What do you see in him? I read an article recently that put him as one of the sleepers in this upcoming draft.
He's the best quarterback in the state. He's the best quarterback in the state of Louisiana. You say, well, that really means a lot because what he does for that team, he lifts the team to a different level. He's a big guy. He's not, what he's about 230?
Yes, 230.
So he's a big guy, and he's very physical, and he's very strong, very smart, good football IQ. He can play in the NFL. He certainly can play in the NFL as a quarterback. And he's a guy who can run, but he's not just a running quarterback. He's a quarterback that can run. He's also, he's got a great array of talent around him. You can go back, and Graff knows this better than me. It was a few years ago, the offensive line looked like a fraternity on a third keg. Really, they looked like they were trying to get guys in there. And
I've been to a few of those fraternity parties.
Yeah,
He's not exaggerating, actually.
But the thing is that now they got guys, and they got a little competition in that offensive line. That makes a big difference. You got running backs. You go 4, 5, 6 deep. You got wide receivers. And Jack Curtis has done a great job with that defense. And that defense is the strength now of this team. And you win games with defense. There will be times that the defense that he runs will turn the ball over and shrink the field for Tulane. That makes a big difference. That means an extra 10, 14 points. And that's going to make the job easier for the offense. And those tight games when the defense can squeeze the opponent, force a turnover, a fumble, interception, you never know what that extra 7 to 10 points means.
Tulane got some good news late last week. Justin McMillan, the grad transfer from LSU, has chosen Tulane. You know a little bit about him from his time at LSU. Talk about what type of quarterback he is.
Very much like Jonathan Banks. Very much like Jonathan Banks, and he set a lot of records at Texas. He's a lefty. He's a good-sized kid, about 6'2", about 215, 218. Very smart, and he's the kind of guy that can do a lot of things. So he went there, to be in a rotation with Jonathan Banks, but he knows when his opportunity comes, if not this year, next year. And if for some reason Jonathan Banks stubs his toe a little bit and has to sit for a couple of series, you don't miss much with Justin McMillan. He comes in and it's not a tremendous drop-off.
And McMillan's already getting reps. He signed on the dotted line Saturday morning, and he was in uniform Saturday afternoon in the Superdome. So that was really my first look at him. Like you said, he's impressive physically, lefty, which is interesting. He throws a very pretty ball, and it will get there. He doesn't leave anything in the tank. He's got an outstanding arm. Now, I have not seen him run around at all because you're gonna run the football as the quarterback of Tulane at some point. He was running 7-on-7, so the quarterback's really not going to run a whole lot in that aspect. So as the reps continue, because right now Dane Ledford's the 2, but he will start to get more and more reps as the season kind of kicks in, and then we'll see what his running ability is. But you can't have too many, Rene. You never know what's going to happen. Again, Jonathan Banks was banged up from the second game of the season last year, and you just have to have as many as you can. I think Dane Ledford's really gotten a whole lot better, so to speak, watching him in camp, but adding McMillan really helps in a depth sense.
Yeah, that makes a difference when you go to your number 2 guy, and they may give him a break now and again rather than keep him in there if he's on one leg, and you got to just tough it out. If Justin McMillan would have been there last year, they may have pulled him for a series or 2 and just take it easy.
I don't think there's any doubt we're going to see McMillan in the month of September at some point. Now, it's going to take him, I'd say 2 or 3 weeks to really have a decent grasp of the playbook, but I would be stunned if he did not play by the end of September.
Well, he didn't play a lot at LSU. We know that. You're banking on his ability to practice against SEC caliber talent. The cupboard wasn't bare. It was just very young at Tulane. At least now you get a guy that's got some semblance of experience, right?
Yeah, no question. And what's even better is he's already said this to the media. The guys have taken him in. They have welcomed him with open arms. They've got an idea that this is a program that has the potential to have a special season, and not just this year, but if it just can continue, because that's the way Willie Fritz is recruiting right now at Tulane. And he's going to have every opportunity in the world to win the starting position next year, along with the transfer from Southern Miss, Keon Howard, who's looked pretty darn good running the scout team. So Look, you guys know how important the quarterback position is. If you don't have one, you're in deep, deep trouble. And I think now, for the first time in a little bit of time, really going back to Ryan Griffin, Tulane is pretty set at that position.
You know, Tulane's been blessed with some pretty good running backs in recent years and beyond in the past. What about this stable of backs?
6 deep, and we could definitely see all 6 in that Wake Forest game. You know, Stephon Hutterson, who was Mississippi Player of the Year coming out of high school, he's listed #1 in the depth chart. He has not missed a rep in all of fall camp. Now, he's not what you would call a prototype running back. He's kind of built low to the ground, but I think his pad level and the leverage that he has, I think he can be an effective runner. But nobody really expected him to be the #1 guy coming out of fall camp in the depth chart. But we've been a little nicked up at the position, Eric. Darius Bradwell, who really came on at the end of last year, former quarterback 2 years ago. He actually played quarterback in that Wake Forest game 2 years ago. He has been converted to running back, and he looked really, really good at the end of the season last year. Had his best game against SMU. Real bowling ball type of running back with speed. And Corey Dauphine, who transferred from Texas Tech, he sat out last year. This guy's got sprinter speed, but he was a little nicked up during fall camp. So that gave the freshmen opportunities to shine in camp because those kids haven't missed a rep. Cam Carroll, who has been one of the talks of camp, really big built kid, 6'2", 220 pounds. And another true freshman, Amari Jones, who has looked very good in spots. So we're going to see a bunch of running backs this year, but I always say it, running backs are like pitchers in baseball. You cannot have too many.
Yeah. And this is a running back-friendly offense as well.
Yeah, and I was telling Graff, the guy, I saw Cam Cameron a little bit, and he reminds me a lot of Gerald Soule, you know, at the same period of time. But you can't have too many, and again, with the offensive line, that's going to make a big difference in the running game. You got talent there, and you got some depth, and that's something else that, you know, Willie Fritz has not built a house of straw. He's built a brick house, and it's going to last for a long time. And this is something that he's looking to the future. He's not just looking to win this year. He's looking to win a year, 2, 3 years down the road. And people coming in recruiting, they know that. And
it hadn't been easy, Eric. I mean, I felt so bad for Coach Fritz 2 years ago because he didn't have the numbers. It was just, and it was hard to watch sometimes. I mean, he came to Tulane and there were 3 scholarship wideouts.
Yeah.
They couldn't conduct a real practice. He's built the numbers up to a point where he's got them now with 20 walk-ons. You got 110 guys out there instead of 75, 80. Yes. That is a huge difference when you're talking about preparation. And I've gotten to know Coach Fritz obviously over the last couple of years. The man deserves some breaks. I mean, think of what happened at the end of last year and just some of the games that we were just this close to winning. We easily could have won 8 games last year. I just think the way that he's built the program, he's been patient. I know the fans haven't been very patient, but it takes time to build a program from where it was when he came in, and I just think he deserves it, and it's time for Tulane to take the next step.
If there is a question mark on this team, it's defense, considering, again, the defections to the NFL and the draft. Talk about this year's defense. Still a work in progress?
Well, that's kind of the unknown now. We had the Coach Fritz show a couple nights ago, and we talked extensively about it. Now, there are guys that have played, but not guys that have played extensively. So there's more numbers. We just talked about it, sheer numbers on the defensive side of the football when you're talking line. We're only going to run a 2 linebacker set this year and 5 DBs. So DB, cornerback, safety, that is going to be a very big key to this defense because of the conference we play in. It is just spread heavy, and you're in the nickel the entire ball game, and you're running against up-tempo offenses all the time, which is what Tulane's going to see against Wake Forest. But how those guys on the back end can come in. I mean, we lost arguably the greatest cornerback in the history of Tulane in Perry Nickerson. Yes. When you look at the numbers, he's trying to make that Jets team, and he's got a very good shot at doing it. It's just tough to replace a guy like that. They're going to try, but I'm really curious to see how that defense responds against somebody else. When you're looking at camp, you're going against yourself. You kind of have an idea of what's coming at you day in and day out. The real test comes when you're going up against somebody, and I'm anxious to see how it's going to happen.
Rene, you played defense at the collegiate level. You've covered it, obviously, as a media member. Normally, defense ahead of the offense. In this case, offense may have to carry the defense a little bit.
Yeah, it will. And you know, one guy who's not going to be a lockdown cornerback, but Rod Teamer is a good player. He's a leader back there for the defensive backfield for Tulane. And there's going to be some freshmen that are going to step up, and they get expected to become grown veterans really, really quick in the defensive line, especially for Tulane. With Jeffrey Johnson, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, he's one guy that, you know, I tell you, they stole him, buddy. And he's
recruited by Alabama,
yeah,
other SEC teams, right?
Florida State and all, and what he's about a 600-pound squat or something, a little
Yes.
more than that. He's a powerful guy, and but you know, when you're playing against this level, it takes you a little while. There's a learning curve, and it's going to take a little while. But the offense certainly can, in this case, as you're saying, make things a little easier for the defense, because when you put up the kind of points that they're capable of putting up, you know, the defense certainly wants to hold the team, an opponent scoreless, but you know, you got a little cushion there.
Right. Tell us about. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I mean, think about it, Rene. 2 years ago, that Wake Forest game was 7-3.
Yeah.
And if Tulane would have had any experience whatsoever in that game at quarterback, it's not even a contest, but that's how important a quarterback position
One
is.
touchdown.
Right. Tell us about tonight's game against Wake Forest. What type of team are they facing in the Demon Deacons?
Well, ironically, their starting quarterback is suspended for the first 3 games, so they're starting a true freshman in Sam Hartman. Now, they're going to run, you talk about up-tempo, they're running an indie-type offense where, again, talking with Coach Fritz, they're going to probably get 85 to 90 plays in offensively. And it is not out of the realm of possibility for them to snap the ball with 25 to 30 seconds left on the play clock, which is insane to me. But I don't think my partner Steve Barrios is going to have a lot of time to talk and make plays. But that's what we're going to see offensively. But the wild card is you got a true freshman at quarterback in Hartman. Now, you can run the no huddle and up-tempo all you want in practice and spring, whatever. Now, he did enroll in January. You just don't know how they're going to respond when it's under the real lights of Division I football. So it should be a very interesting matchup.
Your thoughts on Wake Forest?
You know, not having a start quarterback makes a little bit of difference there. And what they're going to do is with that freshman quarterback, just try to keep the defense on their toes, do as much as they can. And you know, when you run that quick, things happen, and you know you can't substitute. So they're hoping to maybe steal some points that way. But this Wake Forest team can compete in ACC. I mean, they're a good team. This is not just a team that is going to, you know, they're a good team. And their quarterback is missing. I understand it's an important key.
Yes.
But they have some weapons.
Right, coming from a tough conference.
Yeah.
The score will not be 7-3.
No.
I promise you that.
What about the schedule, Graff? Again, some are talking about Tulane breaking through, getting to a bowl game this year. I'll say it. They got ripped off last year at SMU. With that said, pretty tough schedule.
It is, and that's why the Wake Forest, the non-conference games are going to be very large. Now, we're going up to Columbus, which, of course, we'll talk about in a little bit, I'm sure, with Ohio State and Urban Meyer. But the first 3 games, you've got Wake Forest, you've got a Nichols team who's going to come in loaded for bear. They've had an outstanding couple years under Tim Rebowe. They're going to expect to come in and win a ball game. Absolutely. Then another interesting matchup, we go to Legion Field and former Conference USA mate UAB, whose program literally was dead. They voted the program out, and they resurrected it, and they had a bowl season last year. So they're going to be flying high, and they're going to want to knock Tulane off, because if you look at the pecking order of leagues, Tulane kind of jumped ahead of them in Conference USA. So that's going to be a very interesting matchup. Then, of course, you couldn't write a script. Tulane goes into the Horseshoe the day that Urban Meyer comes back from suspension. It's just, you know, you got a 2-year, you know you're playing Ohio State in 2 years, you know it's on the schedule, and who'd ever imagine that this was going to be the result. So, you know, we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to going up there just to see the pageantry and dotting of the I, and the Urban Meyer thing is going to be a whole new storyline upon itself that entire week. So maybe they'll be so distracted Tulane can go in there and steal. Remember last year we went to Norman, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
We're up 14-7 in the second quarter, and I never heard 75,000 people so quiet in my life.
You know, that was going to be my question to you, Rene. he's not afraid to play big-time programs.
Oh, no.
Oklahoma last year, Ohio State this year, they're scheduled some pretty good programs.
And that upgrades your program because kids coming to the school, they want to play those kind of games. They want to play the Ohio States and the Oklahomas. They want to, because, you feel like I want to play those teams and maybe they didn't recruit me. I want to show why, we can compete with these teams. And that's great to have those kind of teams. And I really think because of what happened last year has been a motivating factor. I can see Willie Fritz 7-5, 8-4 this year.
Yeah.
And I've said it a lot. Look, that was a dark day in November. I mean, that was one that a lot of people never got over. Kind of ironic because it was a gorgeous day in Dallas. It was, you couldn't ask for a better fall day, but man, that was tough leaving that stadium that day. But if that's the lesson that they had to learn, that, look, you can't leave it in anybody else's hands but yourself, if that's the lesson that they had to go through for it to be a motivating factor this year, then so be it if it makes the team better.
To my longtime friend Jimmy Highmel, who is a undying Tulane fan, you just got 30 minutes on Tulane. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Todd Graffagnini, voice of the Tulane Green Wave. Rene Nadeau of CrescentCitySports.com are our guests. Coming up next, we'll talk LSU and Saints. Hang in there.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Rene Nadeau of CrescentCitySports.com and the voice of the Tulane Green Wave. I love saying that. Todd Graffagnini are our guest. LSU. Wait a minute. Joe Burrow's the quarterback. A lot of people out there again. He's going to be the quarterback. He's not going to be the quarterback. I found it interesting that Orgeron was so open about the depth that he went into about the quarterback competition. Sounds to me like it was pretty close.
Well, and I think he's got to say that.
Right.
I think he's got to say that, and it might be. I still think before September's over, you're going to see Miles Brennan. And you may see Miles Brennan.
As you should, right?
Yes.
I mean, he is one play away from being the LSU quarterback.
You don't want him to be sitting on the sidelines for 6 games and all of a sudden he's got to come in.
There you go.
So I think I wouldn't be shocked at all to see Miles Brennan against Miami. Southeastern next week, then you got Auburn, you got Louisiana Tech. You got some opportunities there. And Joe Burrow is going to run a little bit too. Joe Burrow is going to run more than Miles Brennan will, so he's going to take some hits. He may not run as much as Jonathan Banks, but he's going to run. And he's it's a weapon. The defense has to play against 11 guys with Joe Burrow back there. Miles Brennan is not a kind of guy who's going to run. But the thing is that Joe Burrow has done so much since he's come aboard. In the film room, he's been taken in by the players, much like Justin McMillan. They trust him. He's a talented guy. I mean, he was this far away from this close to being the starting quarterback at Ohio State. And I think the thing that's going to help him too, once again, is the defense. They're going to make his job easier because the offense at LSU, because there's so many unknowns, and that's one of the strengths of LSU right now.
Yes.
Nobody knows how good they're going to be. Right. The opponents don't know how to prepare for LSU because even if you watch, some old Steve Ensman things, Graf, it's different
They got to go
guys.
A&M, Georgia.
Yeah, you don't have the same
interim in
players.
LSU.
So, he may run the same schemes and stuff, but you get different players. And you don't know what they're going to be playing and how good they're going to be and stuff. So the defense is going to have to step up. Fortunately for LSU, that they have a very, very stout defense. They got a lot of draft choices on there. And it's to make the offense won't have to score 35 points in order to win. The defense is good enough. The defense, too, Miami defense, that is a whole different story.
Talk about it.
You got 3 guys on the Miami defense that are potential #1 draft choices this coming year. You got Joe Jackson, the rush guy, 6'6", 258, defensive end. You got Michael Pinckney, outside linebacker, 6'1", 220, runs about a 4.5, 4.55. He could be a high draft choice. And Michael Jackson, the cornerback, 6'1", 200 pounds, runs a 4.45. He's a guy that erases wide receivers. Then you have Shaq Quarterman, the middle linebacker. He's kind of like a John Beeson, a Jonathan Vilma, DJ Williams. He's kind of in that mold.
Yes.
He's not a Ray Lewis kind of guy. You also have the best guy is a high draft choice, Jaquan Johnson, safety. He's a preseason All-American, had 96 tackles last year, 4 interceptions. He's a guy that rallies around. He's the guy with the chain that you see with that turnover chain.
Yes.
Jaquan Johnson, and he's the guy that leads that Kane defense. But that defense for Miami, I don't think LSU fans understand how good that defense can be. And you got Jerry Willis is coming in, kid from Edna Carr. Everybody remembers 36 sacks at Edna Carr, 289 tackles during his career. Great career. Went to Florida, transferred to Miami, sat out last year, got his life in order. But this Miami defense is going to be a really tough challenge for a very inexperienced and young LSU offense, and that's going to be a challenge there. So the defense for LSU is going to have to step up and beat a big brother in this game.
I want to ask you a question, and look, this is from the outside looking in. I was just curious, and you talked about the quarterback battle with Burrow and Brennan. Why Miles Brennan didn't play later on as the season went on, especially in the bowl game, but you might have answered the question because now you said the opposition really doesn't know what to expect from LSU offensively. Was there a method to that? Because I would have thought that Brennan would have at least played in the bowl game just to see if Ed Ogeron would see, hey, what do I have with this kid? I'm asking you.
It's interesting you say that, Graff, because Matt Canada wanted Miles Brennan to play a lot, start or play a lot, and so that's interesting. When that divorce came about, that was kind of the end of that. But Miles Brennan, I kept waiting for him to get in. Why he didn't get in the bowl game, I don't know. But you got a lot of inexperience now. Even with Miles Brennan, if he would have started, still, he's played so little last year. But the running back situation, you got 2 wide receivers that are going to play prominent roles, both freshmen, Terrace Marshall and Jamar Chase. They're in that 2-deep depth chart. Jonathan Giles, 69 catches a couple of years ago at Texas Tech, but how's he going to fit in here? I know he's been promoted, highly promoted and everything. Yes. The offensive line, the thing that scares me about the offensive line is that right tackle has not been solved. You got Bedora Traore, a guy came in from junior college, and a lot was expected of him. He's competing with Adrian McGee. They moved Austin Deculus, who I thought may win that spot, moved him inside. Now he's a backup guard. So the fact that they are playing a team like Miami, and they be playing the Alabamas and the Auburns, and they don't have that offensive line solved. I don't think the offensive line may be as good as Tulane's right now. Well, you don't know. There's question marks. You got Cushenberry, the center, who hasn't played. You got Damian Lewis, who is really highly promoted, or however you want to say, highly regarded. Yes. He's one of the guards. And you got Brumfield, who really didn't start a lot. He's the other starting guard. You lose Ingram.
How big of a loss?
Oh, my God. He was the second best lineman they got. Sadiq Charles is an NFL-type left tackle. He is an NFL tackle. But losing Ingram hurt a lot. Not only because how good he is, because there's a bit of a drop-off, and there's no depth now. You got depth. Austin Deculus is going to have to come in, or you got some freshmen coming in, true freshmen coming in. And
that's tough in the SEC.
It's tough in the SEC. It's tough anywhere. And you got to have, as you know, Brett, you got to have 10 linemen in college. You have to rotate those guys, nicks and bumps, and a fast-paced offense. You have to give those guys a break. And when you got a drop-off, from Sadiq Charles' example, to whoever's backing him up, and right now it's Traore. It may affect your play calling. Right. You can't do it. LSU is going to have to run the ball with success. I wouldn't say a lot, but with
committee?
Yes. Run the ball with success and not be in a 3rd and 7. They're going to have a 3rd and 2 kind of situation is good. And they're going to have to, Joe Burrow is going to have to be a 2- and 3-step drop, quick release, short passing game. That's the kind of offense they're going to have to run against Miami to win. If they don't have success there and they become one-dimensional and have to throw long, they're in trouble.
We hear Brissett, we hear Edwards-Helaire, we hear the kid Curry out of Georgia. Is it by committee or is it going to be?
Well, Hilaire's going to be the guy. I think Hilaire's going to be the guy. And I mean, they say Brissett, and we haven't seen practice a lot. Brissett is his last go. He's a senior now. He's about 220, but he's never done it yet. Hilaire is a guy that I think is going to be. And he is a lot like Boston Scott. He's a lot like Boston Scott. Built the same way and stuff. Got some tree trunks legs. He's pretty strong. Curry, I think, is another guy who's going to see some reps. And Provins is a guy they signed this year. I think is a guy. He's a third down kind of guy. 185, 188 pounds. Good hands out of the backfield. But each one will have a different role in this offense. But again, the short passing game, 5-7 yards, just quick slants and that kind of stuff. That's what they're going to have to do to have success. Now, they're going to have to take a couple of shots, but, that defense is coming, and they're going to blitz, and they know what they're facing in that offensive line of LSU. And Manny Diaz is going to dial up a couple of blitzes, buddy, and he's going to bring the house, and Burrow's not going to have much time. They can't do it all the time, but they'll do it enough to keep him off balance.
Rene, tumultuous offseason for the Tigers since the loss of Notre Dame. Surtain basically going to Alabama, thumbing his nose at LSU. We saw a little bit of an uptick when Joe Burrow signed, and then of course what happened at the LSU camp with a lot of these potential signees throwing their hat in the ring for LSU. Again, just verbal commitments, not on the dotted line. You get Christian Fulton back for this team. How big is that for a team that needed a dose of good news?
It means a lot. I don't think it makes them a great defense with him. It makes them a really good defense because he is very, very talented. And you had Kelvin Joseph, who's probably going to start, but again, a true freshman, really talented true freshman, but he was going to start, and he still may start. But you got Christian Fulton ready to come in, and he has at least been on the field, and he's been around enough to know what he's up against. So having Christian Fulton come in and is going to be huge. The thing is, you mentioned though about all the things that went in the offseason, Graff, you're an athlete and stuff. You take on that mentality that it's us against the world. Right. Nobody believes in this. Nobody believes in this. And when they think you're going to win 4 or 5 games, what do? You go in a locker room, you go in a clubhouse, and nobody believes that we can do this, buddy. It makes you, it brings you together, and it a lot of team camaraderie and stuff like that, and that makes a big difference. So I think this team is capable of some good things. Now, when you got the Alabamas and the Auburns and the Georgias on your schedule, well, it makes a little bit of a difference. Yeah. But injury, and you don't know how good Texas A&M and Ole Miss is going to be. Sure. But I do think this team is capable of 8 wins. Something, Lady Luck smiles on them, 9 wins. Something's going to have to happen. They have to come of age really quickly. Those freshmen have to become sophomores really, really quickly. But I think they know what they have. The confidence, and they are talented enough. They just don't have experience right now.
It all starts with Miami on Sunday night. Your thoughts on the game?
Cole Tracy may be the player of the game.
New kicker.
And you know how good kickers are.
That's why I didn't mention it to Graff. I'll let that one go.
No, but I tell you, I went back and forth with this, and I wrote this on CrescentCitySports.com. I vacillated with the final score, and I think Cole Tracy, 4 field goals. Don't tell me how to come up with the score, but 24-22 LSU. Okay. But I think Cole Tracy's toe, because why I say that, because of the inexperience on offense, in that red zone, it's going to be tough to punch it in, and maybe you may have to go to your field goal kicker to kind of bail you out a little bit. So doesn't make any difference how you score. Cole Tracy comes in, and you have a good kicker, and he seems to be pretty good. He may be your weapon this year.
In all fairness to my buddy Graff, talk about the special teams of Tulane.
First of all, I'm going to use that word irony again. Isn't it ironic that Tulane has had 2 Lou Groza Award winners in the last 15 years when you talk about Seth Marler and Cairo Santos. We've had 2 of the great kickers in America go to the Green Wave and kick the ball through the uprights many, many, many times. But, it's been an adventure at times. And, I was joking. I did a radio interview yesterday, and I was joking. I said, the play-by-play guy, it's always good when the play-by-play guy is actually watching the play and not looking down doing this while you're calling the game. So hopefully this year we're going to be able to actually watch the kickers. I think Merrick Glover's actually had a pretty decent camp. Now, last year, the kid was put in very tough spots. He was a walk-on. He couldn't kick the ball 35 yards. I mean, if you're on the 25-yard line or out, Tulane was going for it on fourth down. That's not going to be the case this year. He has improved his leg strength tremendously in the offseason. We'll just hope that the accuracy is there. I think he's had a pretty decent camp. But again, when you get under the lights, it's a different deal altogether. But hopefully I'm not doing this while we're lining up for field goals.
Let me just tell you this too. Throw this in. We talked about the defense. Malik Rozier, almost 3,500 yards from Miami last year as a quarterback. He's a senior. He makes some bad decisions. 53% of his passes complete. But he got a couple of running backs that are good. Travis Homer is coming back. They got a kid named Lingard. Is really special. I think he could be among the top running backs that have come through the program. But that offensive line averages over 325. The right guard and right tackle alone each weighs a 6'6", 350. But Tyree St. Louis is on the left tackle. He's a left side. Because they're so big, a good running team, they're going to have trouble with speed rushes and picking up blitzes and stuff like that. So, yeah, Chasson is, he can be a special cat, buddy. He's 6'4", 240 now. Tremendous get off. He's got another year after this, but he's Arden Key all over in his day.
Yeah, no doubt. You cover the entire state for CrescentCitySports.com. Some teams that are poised to have a good year this year.
UL Monroe. Caleb Evans is probably the second best quarterback because you don't know how good Joe Burrow is going to be. So Caleb Evans at UL Monroe is really good quarterback. And they've been building for this year. So I think UL Monroe, and they play Southeastern this weekend. They play them tonight, as a matter of fact. Nichols has been prime. Tim Rebo's done a great job.
You'll see those guys week 2.
And they are really, really good. And they are believing in themselves. Now, you could see he's built it with 6'2", 270-pound defensive linemen like Sully Lesh. I mean, everybody thought it was too small. Freshman All-American a couple of years ago. So Chase Fourcade, they didn't know if he was fast enough or big enough. So again, an underdog mentality that Nichols has done, and Tim Rebo's turned it into a winner. McNeese can be good. James Taberry from Holy Cross can wind up being the all-time leading passer in McNeese history. So I think they can be good. And I'm going to tell you what, Grambling and Southern are two teams that can compete in that conference and do very, very well. I hope Southeastern with Frank Selfo. I think he can do some great things. Quarterback coach in the NFL. Guys are going to go to him now because they know that if I want to go to the NFL, this is a quarterback who's unhappy at another school is going to go to Frank Selfo because this is my chance to be, work with somebody who knows what they're doing. So that gives you a pretty good idea. Northwestern with Laird, with a new coach, they're going to take a little while to build. But I think UL Monroe is going to surprise some people, and Nichols might take that next step this year.
Wednesday afternoon, as I was getting ready to wrap up my radio show, the story broke. Teddy Bridgewater had been traded to the New Orleans Saints for a third-round pick this season. The Saints will receive a sixth-round pick from the New York Jets. Guys, I've been calling for Teddy Bridgewater all off season long. Did not believe in Tom Savage and never believed Taysom Hill was the heir apparent or going to be a quarterback for this team. Teddy Bridgewater brings a little bit of experience, but a tremendous amount of upside. He is a true quarterback. He's done on the collegiate level. And, of course, when he's had the opportunity on the NFL level, he's done fairly well. I think there's a tremendous amount of upside here. And as we discussed off the air, for the Saints, it is an opportunity for them to bring in a backup quarterback, a guy that maybe can learn under Breeze, learn under Peyton. He's under a one-year deal. He will be a free agent next year. And, of course, it was Larry Holder that brought it up on Sports 1280 this afternoon that Bridgewater, if he does sign elsewhere, the Saints will get a compensatory pick in the third round. So it'll be a late third-round pick, but they'll get that third-round pick back. Graff, what's your thoughts on Teddy Bridgewater?
Sounds like a win-win to me, Eric. Again, going to that thought where if you don't sign him, you get the pick back, in essence. So what this tells me, and it could be Captain Obvious, but this tells me that the Saints believe that they can win it all. I mean, and you look at what happened last year with Carson Wentz, and he goes down, and Nick Foles steps in. Now, there were some growing pains early on with Nick Foles. I actually was fortunate enough to go up to Philadelphia. Tulane was playing Temple in basketball The week after, the 2 days after Nick Foles it was an absolute train wreck against the Oakland Raiders on a Monday night. And to listen to sports talk radio in Philadelphia, that day it was entertainment of the highest quality. But this is the insurance policy. And it's pretty evident that the Saints have been watching Bridgewater up close and personal and scouting him to where they felt comfortable enough to make this trade and say, you know what? If something, God forbid, happens to Breeze, maybe this guy can come in and get the job done and win some games. So, and not only this year, but they're thinking long term as well, because why would you give up a third-round pick if you didn't think you were going to be able to sign him in the future?
You know, and the thing is that I know I've been on a show and we've talked before, and those guys, and Mike Glennon was one guy. But Teddy Bridgewater is by far the best option they could have gotten as a backup right now. Teddy Bridgewater, his first 4 games with the Vikings, he completed 76% of his passes. The first 4 games. I mean, he's a very accurate, efficient passer. He's not a little guy, 6'2", a little over 6'2", about 215, 218. So he's a good-sized guy. He's not a running quarterback, but he's a mobile quarterback. Right. He's a little bit kind of between Tyrod Taylor and Marcus Mariota. I mean, he's somewhere up in there. Yes. You know, he can hurt you with his feet. He's not going to take off on a 70-yard run like a Michael Vick or Randall Cunningham, but he's a guy that can move around, and he's good on the move. I mean, he can complete passes on the move. He keeps his eyes downfield. A very intelligent guy. He did a great job at Louisville. But man, that injury was devastating. He gets traded to the Jets, and it wasn't going to be a good fit with Darnold there now. He was going to languish on the sideline. So I think he wanted to go. He's 25 years old. Right. So the future looks really, really bright. And I really think out of all the backup quarterbacks in the NFL they could have gotten, Teddy Bridgewater was the best.
That shows you also about his mental fortitude. He injured that knee, and again, it was as devastating an injury as you could possibly. I mean, you can tear your ACL and UCL, whatever. It was as bad as it got. It was 2 years ago. You would figure that he is pretty close to 100% now, but just to rehab from something like that, what you've got to go through mentally, day in and day out, say, you know what, my career isn't over. I'm going to come back, and I'm going to get back to where I was before. So I think that tells you a little something about him. In a mental strength deal, that's, and again, you can't measure that type of stuff.
And I would think for a quarterback, the appeal of playing behind Drew Brees maybe for a couple years, playing in this offense with the talent that they have on this offense. This fits his skill. And a defense that looked like, it's again, they put the assets into it and is getting better, still some holes, but getting better. For the future, he's got to look at it and say, if I got to go anywhere, this is probably not a bad place to land.
And, you know, and people have talked, and we have all heard this. People have been saying Sean Payton's going to go when Drew Brees goes. This kind of puts that to rest. Yeah. You know, and the thing is that now Teddy Bridgewater, because they are building, and they give up 2 draft choices, or, you know, they move up to get Marcus Davenport in the recent draft. That goes to show the future's now. They want to win now. They think they can win now. And getting Teddy Bridgewater confirms that. You know, and the defense, the moves they've made, I think this defense is going to be better with Demario Davis, with Kurt Coleman, Patrick Robinson. They made some good offseason trades and moves, added some guys, and I think it's really going to pay off.
And now about the opportunity for Bridgewater himself. I mean, he's going to be in the quarterback room with Drew Brees every day, learning the position with one of the greatest of all time, and with an opportunity to maybe one day down the road lead this team.
Guys, talk a little bit about what this means for Hill and Savage now.
I wouldn't loan Savage any money right now. But I think Savage is probably gone.
Hopefully he's renting and not.
But, you know, and the thing is, with all respect to Taysom Hill, you know, I wouldn't call him Guido Merkins, but I mean, the thing is that he's more of a special teams kind of guy. And, you know, the thing is that quarterbacks, and Taysom Hill was never, even if he took over in the second quarterback, he's never going to be a second leading rusher. But, you know, you got to go back. There's only been, I think, 3 or 4 guys that have been second leading rushers in Saints history. Aaron Brooks, Archie Manning was a second leading rusher on the team when he was here. Jeff Blake, and I'm trying to think who the other one was. Wade Wilson. There's 4 guys in Saints history who were second leading rushers on their team. And you didn't think of Wade Wilson, you know, as a rushing guy. But Bobby Douglas was a guy that came here and ran a lot, and he was like the 4th leading rusher on the team. Taysom Hill, that's been his calling card, that he runs a lot. And I don't know if it'd ever be something that would fit in here. He'd have to get better as a passer.
Well, also his age. I mean,
he's 27 years old.
Right. And let's say Brees stays a couple more years in the league. He's 30 years old. Do you really start to groom a quarterback that's going to be 30?
Well, and Tom Savage, with all respect to Tom Savage, he did well at Houston last year. I don't think in this offense, and right now, I don't think his future is very bright here, and I'm making a joke about it. But I mean, the thing is that I don't think Teddy Bridgewater, if they saw much in Tom Savage at all, they wouldn't even thought about
Absolutely.
it. So
there's no way they don't put up the draft choice if they think Savage is a guy they can count on.
Absolutely. So Savage and Taysom Hill is a nice little gadget kind of thing. I think if you'd have to go in and use him in a pinch, but he makes his bones covering kicks.
I was going to say, watching those 2-point conversions against the Chargers intrigues me because I don't know how you can stop a guy like that. I mean, you picture a 2-point conversion in a run-pass option with Taysom Hill at quarterback and you got Kamara behind him.
Yes.
Who's going to stop that?
Yeah.
So I think in situations like that, but do you take Drew Brees out on a 2-point conversion?
Well,
I don't
on the
know, but
2-point conversion, I might.
I like what I saw against the Chargers because I just think it's very difficult to stop with that guy running it.
Grab on the 2-point conversion, I might, but I'm not taking Brees out of the game in the red zone.
No, absolutely not.
Okay,
absolutely not. I'm just talking about in a specific
look,
situation.
I could see that all day, every day, but I would not see him. Again, all of a sudden Hill comes trotting out and Brees rolls out to plays a wide receiver.
Let's not roll Drew Brees out anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't want him catching the football.
No.
I don't need.
But I mean,
that.
Taysom Hill, once he comes in, everybody knows. They run the ball.
But but you're still you got to stop it though.
Yeah.
You still have.
You don't
to
know where
stop
he's running, but
Guys, if I had still have any concern at all, it's the interior of the defensive line, the ability to stop the run, and the ability to get off the field on third down. Look, they tried in the offseason to go after Muhammad Wilkerson, to go after Ndamukong Suh. They weren't able to get those deals done. They've stayed pretty much status quo. They beefed up the outside with Davenport. They went out and got a linebacker, Demario Davis. Kurt Coleman in the backfield at the safety position. All again to try to be strong up the middle, but they didn't address the interior of the defensive line. Rene, I'll take you first. What's the situation? First of all, do you buy into them not being strong at the point of attack against the run and being able to get out the field on third down, based on what we saw last year, the mirage that preseason is, or do you think that they're fine there and they'll be okay and they can scheme their way out of it?
They're going to be okay there. I mean, first of all, Ayamata made a big step forward. He's made a giant step.
Is he big enough, though?
Yeah, he is. He's a little over 300, but he's good enough, and he's skilled enough, and he's talented. It was that learning curve for Onyemata. Sheldon Rankins didn't take quite a quantum step that Onyemata did, but you got Mitch Lowen and you got some other guys there that are going to be okay. Stallworth and all, you don't know what's going to happen with them. And
Stallworth and Lawrence, I think, are on the bubble.
I mean, you don't know, yeah. I mean, they're situational guys. They're not going to start an NFL game right now, but, in a pinch, they could be in a rotation. And also, keep in mind, as Sean Payton says all the time, you're auditioning for 31 other teams. He's going to watch that waiver wire, and he could bring 2 or 3 other guys in here.
That would not surprise me. Waiver wire, or again a trade to try to beef up the interior of the defensive line.
What concerns me, and it's really going back to last year, and it's happened already a couple times in the preseason. Now, yes, it's preseason, but it still is the number one defense. Notoriously slow starts. How many times did we see last year?
Great point.
The opposition get the first drive of the ball game and go down the field. And we've seen it a couple times in preseason against the number one defense. Jacksonville did it, and we saw it the other night. The Chargers did it. Now, they didn't score a touchdown on the first drive because the Saints were able to make a play on fourth down, but they got it back and went right back down the field again. Now, as the games went on and you get into the second and third quarter, we saw Dennis Allen make the adjustments, and we saw how good the defense can be. But you can't keep putting your offense under the 8 ball game in and game out by giving up points in that first drive. To me, that's what has got to get better as we head into the regular season in a couple weeks.
Rene, some tough cuts for this team on Saturday.
Ooh, it's going to be tough, yeah. I mean, there's going to be guys that I'm sure
wide receiver, do you keep 5 or 6?
Yeah,
I mean, defensive backfield.
Defensive backfield.
I mean, we just talked about Lawrence and Stallworth.
Offensive line.
Okay, at linebacker. Are you going to keep Elliott or is it Stupar? I mean, there's some.
That's going to be tough.
Right,
and Elliott
even tight end. I mean, again, with Ho Wanamanui, or do you keep Garrett Griffin?
Griffin, I think, is jumped over Homan. I think he really has, and he's been making small increments in camp the last couple of years, and I think he makes the squad this year. That interior line, we don't know a Jermon Bushrod.
What do you think? He has not really shown he has the footwork now, the speed to play tackle anymore.
Yeah, he's got to move inside.
And
right now,
I think they've got some young players inside that again have upside. That's a position that I think the Saints may go out, either go for a trade or the waiver wire to get a veteran in here that can play that tackle position.
The best guy right now they have is Barclay, that he's played for the Packers, and he's been a tackle. Can they do better than that? I don't know, but they're going to check the waiver wires. You got Will Clapp's got a good shot.
I think he's got a real good shot.
They like Cameron Tom a lot.
Yeah, heir apparent, I would think, to Unger there, right?
Yeah.
With maybe Clapp moving into a guard role.
He could play either guard,
right,
and
center, right.
Cameron Tom is more of a center guy.
Right. Laribus.
You got Laribus there too. But here's the deal: Laribus, I don't know how old he is, 28 or 29. Do they think that there's much of a drop off from Cameron Tom and Will Clapp to Laribus? I'm saying this is what the coaches may be thinking. Do we let Laribus go and keep one of these guys because we'll have them a lot longer? Right. Or is Laribus done so well, and he is very valuable?
Yeah, I think he's valuable.
He is valuable.
I think he's too valuable to let go, but especially when you can put one of those young guys on a practice squad and maybe hold on to him.
I think either Cameron Tom, if Cameron Tom or Will Clapp go to
Tom's
practice
not
squad,
going anywhere. I don't think.
But I'm saying is either one of those guys, somebody will grab him.
I think both those guys make it. I think Leonard's the guy that may end up on the practice squad before it's all said and done.
He would be the safest runner now because he hadn't shown enough, and I think teams would know that he is more of a practice squad guy right now. Because if you grab him up the practice squad, as you know, sure, put him on the roster.
Absolutely, but you got to put him on an active roster.
So,
well, you saw last year how important having depth on the offensive line was. I mean, Calamente was a savior last year with the positions that he was able to play. So those offensive line cuts are going to be very, very key as to what's going to happen this year.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a good problem to have, right, Rene?
Oh yeah.
I mean, when you got talent and you feel like when you're cutting somebody, they have an opportunity to play for another team. It's been a while there where that wasn't happening with the Saints. They were undrafted free agents were filling out their roster here.
And you talked about the linebackers, Craig Robertson and Alex Anzalone. I mean, those guys. I mean, could start for a lot of teams.
Right.
And you got Klein in there, AJ Klein and DeMarcus Davis. I mean, DeMario Davis. So that linebacking core, those 5 guys are really, really solid. And again, Elliott, where does he fit in? Stupart, does he make it? It's going to be really, really tough. And you might see some shifting and going back and forth. And as Sean Payton said, write it in chalk and erase it and bring them back again. But I can see a couple of guys getting picked off of waivers from other teams.
I agree with you, and I agree with what Graff said earlier. They're all in this season, so they're going to shore up any places that they feel they have a deficiency. I definitely think.
And injuries are going to happen.
Absolutely.
Eric. I mean, they're going to. You don't, unless you're the Atlanta Falcons from a couple years ago when nobody got hurt. It's going to happen, so you got to be ready for it.
Graff, quickly, Tulane game tonight. How can folks find it?
We will be on Sports Radio 1280, 7 o'clock kickoff. Also on television, it's CBS Sports Network. But, of course, we need you to listen to the Tulane IMG Sports Network.
Voice of the Tulane Green Wave, Todd Graffagnini, Rene Nadeau of CrescentCitySports.com. Thanks for being on our panel tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night right here on WLAE at 10 p.m. Also statewide on Pelican Sports Television. That's 9 o'clock. You can catch me on the radio. That is weekdays, noon to 2, Sports 1280, 101.1 FM HD2, the iHeartRadio app. Listen live at ericasher.com. Download the podcast there. Also, you can watch all the previous episodes of Inside New Orleans Sports at ericasher.com. Follow me on Twitter at Eric_Asher. And, of course, check us out on Facebook as well. Special thanks to our guest tonight, Rene Nadeau, and also Todd Graffagnini. Also to the WLA production staff, Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Trey Lopez, and my director, William Hill. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll check you out next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.